Iran is under attack. And if you think this war is between USA and Iran, then somewhere you're looking at things into pieces. You're not understanding the big picture or the core geopolitics that's leading this war. Right now, when we look at this Iran war, we see that USA and Israel, these two parties have attacked Iran. The reason? They're saying Iran is developing nuclear weapons, or somewhere they're saying we want to change the regime in Iran. Now, what is the core factor? Why USA is getting so much desperate to take control over this area? For this, you have to understand USA's foreign policy. How the US foreign policy has been evolving, how they look at this region of Middle East. Now for this, I suggest you people to understand United States hegemony idea. United States has been following the policy of maintaining its hegemony throughout the world, specifically when we say the time after 1990. You see, after 1990 onwards, the world was dominated by United States of America. If I go back to history and see how things have been going on, you see, after World War II, that is somewhere around the time was 1945. After this war, the world had completely changed. It changed in such a manner that the world was dominated by two superpowers. Those two superpowers were USA and USSR. Now, this is the phase we call as the phase of Cold War. 1945 onwards, the Cold War begins between USA and USSR. And these two powers, they fight with each other in the form of something called as proxy wars. Now, we call it Cold War because the direct fight, the warm fight, or the hot war is not happening between USA and USSR, but they are fighting at different places by supporting different parties. That's why we see the entire world getting divided into two parties. But I'm saying after 1990, even USSR collapsed. USSR got disintegrated and the world was led only by United States of America. So when you have a world in which you have only one superpower, that superpower will always try to maintain its hegemony, maintain its domination throughout the world. Now come specifically to the area of West Asia. Some people call it as West Asia, some people call it as Middle East. Same stuff, nothing new as such. The Western countries call it as Middle East. We as Indians call it as West Asia. This term specifically came from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Now when you look at West Asia, which includes all these parties. Which all these parties? You have Saudi Arabia, you have UAE, you have Iran, all such countries of the Gulf region and this Persian Gulf region. Now what I'm saying is, when we talk about this region of Middle East, this region is highly important for United States. Not just for United States, any particular party whom you call as the great power, they will try to have some presence in this region. Now look at US policy. I said, when there was World War II, after World War II, there are two parties, that is USA and USSR. So both will try to get involved in the affairs of West Asia. Now this West Asian region is very important, specifically because of few reasons. Why it will become important? Number one thing, we all know the oil reserves. Substantial oil reserves are there in this particular region. If you look at Iran also, it will also have some level of oil reserves, some level of natural gas. Rather to say, after Russia, Iran is having substantial natural gas reserves. Now this area from the perspective of oil becomes important, and you look at the economy of the entire world. The economy of almost every single country substantially depends on the oil resources. Think about India. Let's say for some time, let's say right now, for some time, the supply of oil is not there coming to India. Suddenly our economy will stop. That's why every country is concerned about this, something we call as energy security. And for the sake of energy security, this area, that is West Asia, becomes highly important. Now look at United States. For United States, this oil reserve is very important for their companies who want to take a control of this region, who want to extract oil, who want to sell oil and make profits also. This is one part I'm telling you. Second thing, this oil part is also connected to their dollar system, which we call as petrodollar system. USA's hegemony or dominance is there in the entire world because entire world goes for trade in the form of dollar only. Dollar is considered as the international currency. Now you observe, whenever the most of the trade of the world happens in dollar, that gives USA an extra power over any other country. And you observe the oil trade also happens in dollar, and that is because USA is having dominance over those countries which have oil reserves. If I go to this region of West Asia, right now if you look at this region, there are many countries. For example, if I talk about Saudi Arabia, UAE, more or less these countries are completely under the control of USA. They are under the sphere of influence of USA. But when you look at Iran, right now Iran doesn't seem to be under the influence of USA. If I take example of, let's say, Turkey. Turkey is also substantially important for USA. That's why Turkey is part of the NATO also. And there's one thing called as Israel. Israel is nothing but the permanent partner of USA in this region. You can simply say Israel is nothing but USA, living in the region of this Middle East or West Asia. Now you observe one thing. When I talk about this West Asian region, this region is also important because there are so many choke points which are strategically important. When I say choke points, there are some regions in the world which, if someone takes control of, it can stop the trade of the entire world substantially. For example, if you look at the map of Iran, you will find there is something called as Strait of Hormuz. Now, when you look at the Strait of Hormuz, Iran is located in that particular region, and Iran's navy is strong enough to even choke that particular area. If their navy stops that particular area from working, no ship can travel from there. You look at India's oil, 50 to 60% of India's oil is coming from the same region. And let's say Iran stops or chokes this particular area, even our oil supply will be disrupted. Not just India's, even entire world economy, if you see, substantial trade happens through this area. Even for China, that is important. So, when your country is located near a particular choke point, that country becomes strategically very important. Now, in this West Asian region, you have Strait of Hormuz, you have Bab al-Mandeb, you have Suez Canal. These are the regions which are highly important from strategic perspective. Strategic means from your security perspective. When I say security, it just does not mean military security. It also becomes your energy security, food security, or whatever your trade part is. Right? So this makes West Asian region way more important, and specifically Iran also highly important. Clear? Now, when I look at these two dimensions, I add one more thing into it from geopolitical perspective. You look at the location of entire West Asia and then specifically location of Iran. The location of West Asia, see, the West Asia is located somewhere over here. And how do you see the entire world? You see, there is Europe, which is quite near to this West Asian region. Then there is Central Asia, quite near to this region. East Asia, quite near to this region. South Asia, quite near to this region. So if someone has control over West Asia or this Iran part also, then they can control the rest of the region. That's why geopolitically also this region becomes highly important. Now, what was happening after the World War II? USA tried to ensure that this region comes under the control or influence of USA. When I say under the influence of USA, simply means the government of that country does whatever USA wants. Simple. Let's say the USA wants that US company or any British company should extract oil from their region and make profits and all, then that should be allowed by the government of that country. Now, the point is, when I look at West Asia, I am saying USA started doing this thing. They started increasing their sphere of influence. One thing they did was creation of this Israel. That was one thing. Israel is always supported by USA for the same reason. Apart from that, you see Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, all these countries, if you observe them, they are also substantially under USA's influence. Now, if I take example specifically of Iran, if I say even Iran was under the sphere of influence of USA, think about it. I'm saying right now the way friendship is there between USA and Saudi Arabia, similar kind of friendship was there between USA and Iran. Now that was the time when the Shah of Iran, he was ruling this particular country, that is Iran. And because the relations between USA and Iran were very good, because it is some kind of a puppet regime for USA, what we see, the relations go very well, everything goes very good. Even USA's companies are there extracting the oil and the natural gas and all those things. One more thing additionally, what happens over here is, when the foreign companies are entering into Iran and they are extracting resources, some elites, they become rich. And this will not be liked by the Iranian population or Iranian people. So somewhere we found that when this Shah was ruling in Iran and USA's influence was increasing, this was leading to some level of anti-USA sentiments rising in Iran. People were not liking it. Many people, many sections of Iranian society, they were not liking it. Okay. Now, one more thing in this particular thing, when you say Shah is ruling, he was also ensuring that Iran becomes a modern nation. Somewhere modernity is coming, westernization is happening. The kind of images, if you search during the Shah regime, what kind of images of Iran you see, it doesn't look like any Islamic nation as such. It looks like a very westernized nation, just like Britain or France or something like this. Such things were going on during Shah's regime. But now, suddenly a big event happened in the year 1979. That is called Islamic Revolution under Ayatollah Khomeini. In 1979, the clergies, those people who are part of the religion, those who are priests or clergies, their group started going for a revolt against the regime of Shah. They wanted to change this regime. They wanted to bring some revolution in Iran, and they were 100% successful in doing that. Somewhere USSR was also supporting this idea that there should be some revolution over here, because US's influence is not liked by the USSR as such in the Iran. But interestingly, this revolution happened does not mean USSR's influence started coming into picture, because this regime brought by Ayatollah Khomeini, it's a religious regime. And this Islamic religious regime neither likes USA nor likes USSR. They are more into Iran only. So now what happens is the entire political system of Iran is changed. Now in this system, now the foreign policy of Iran also changes drastically. Sudden change in foreign policy. Till now they were friends. Suddenly now they become enemies. What we see also, the change in USA's foreign policy. For USA, Iran is substantially important. You like it, you don't like it. But Iran is located at such a place wherein if you don't have control over this region, then there will be control by other parties, which is not in the interest of USA. If USA has to maintain its hegemony in the region, Iran becomes important. Now for this, you have to understand how USA and its foreign policy moves. We say there is one grand policy or grand strategy which USA follows. It's not just about West Asia. USA follows this grand strategy throughout the region, throughout the entire world. What is that strategy? USA wants to maintain that USA should remain that one superpower or that global leader. Now, there is one way you can remain number one. If I want to remain number one way is number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. I should compete with them and I should always try to stay number one. Like I'll grow my economy so much that I'll always remain number one. That could be one way. Other way could be you ensure that nobody among these grows. You stop their growth. You don't let them grow enough that they challenge your position. Right? Now, USA follows this policy wherein it tries to stop the growth of many countries or stop the power growing in any region. Now what happens is, let's say you look at India. This is India. This is where you have Pakistan. You have, let's say, Nepal. Then you have Bhutan. Then you have Bangladesh. Then you have Sri Lanka. This is, let's say, the South Asian region we are simply talking about. In this region, who is the most powerful country? India. There's a high chance India will dominate the entire region. So what USA will do? USA will not let India dominate. What will they do? They will try to support the weaker party in this area. The weaker party could be Pakistan, it could be Bangladesh, it could be Sri Lanka. They will support the weak party. Now the moment USA like country is supporting, their influence or their power dominates and India cannot dominate in this region. Same policy they will apply for China, same policy they will apply for Russia, same policy they are going to apply even in case of Middle East. In the Middle East or West Asia, if you ask me, who is that one country who can actually dominate or who is actually really powerful, then that country is Iran. Looking at its geography, geopolitically, geostrategically, by all means, it seems Iran is the most powerful country who is capable of dominating the region. And that's where USA tries to bring Iran either into its sphere of influence, or if we can't bring it under sphere of influence, then we will support all other countries. That's why you see USA supports all other countries except Iran, so that this side remains stronger. Now the matter becomes further complicated. Here in other parties, there are countries like Saudi Arabia, but there's one more country called as Israel. Now the existence of Israel is a complicated story. We all know that Israel as a new state was created. It's a state for Jewish people. Now here what happens is, in Iran, when this Islamic revolution happened, the Islamic regime came into picture. They had to always show that they are the leaders of Islam. And that's where their conflict with Israel becomes very intense. Iran does not accept the existence of Israel itself. They don't even accept that Israel as a nation should exist as such. And that's where existential threat for Israel comes into picture, and same policy Israel has with respect to Iran after this. Because for Israel also, this is the country who is an existential threat for them. Right? So that's how the rivalry becomes way more intense. So it is in Israel's interest that Iran should not become more powerful in the region. It is in USA's interest Iran should not grow so much. It is also in the interest of other Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia, like Bahrain, like UAE, that Iran should not grow. That's where all these countries come in one bracket, and they don't want Iran to grow. Okay, now what is happening right now is this: Israel and USA together, they have attacked Iran. Although initially they have tried to put a lot of pressure on Iran. And Iran understood, we might not be able to fight with this pressure for a long duration. They have seen some incidents. What are those incidents? You look at what happened in Iraq, what happened in this Lebanon, what USA has been doing, or look at what happened in Afghanistan. If you observe USA's history, what they do is they directly go for invading the region. Iraq invasion happened, they gave different reasons. They said there is weapon of mass destruction, nuclear weapon or something they are developing. They said something and they attacked and they invaded the region. So same thing might happen with Iran, is something Iran also knew. They can have the same scenario which happened with these regions. That's why Iran thought, we have to create some deterrence. We have to create some fear in the minds of USA, and that fear can be created only by building nuclear weapons. But the point is, USA is not letting even Iran make nuclear weapons. That's why since last, if you're observing, Donald Trump, his first presidency, then Biden came into picture, and then the next second term of Donald Trump, every time they are putting as much pressure on Iran as much possible. And right now what we see is, now they have gone for a direct invasion, although this is not a ground invasion right now. They've just attacked. We don't know how this war will lead, like whether it will be escalated too much or it will not be. We have to see where it moves. Now it's not like Iran seems to be very alone to you. It's like USA is attacking Iran, it looks like this. Now comes the real politics over here. I said after 1990, in the world, there's only one superpower, that is USA. So obviously, entire West Asia should be dominated by USA. But this is not the end. When you look at Middle East, earlier USA and USSR, both were there. Then after 1990, USSR has gone, only USA is there. But what happens in the entire world is some change we start observing. We see the rise of China. China starts growing. We see after Putin coming into picture, he wants Russia's influence to further come into this region. So what we see is Russia on one hand, China on other hand, they want to challenge the US hegemony in this Middle Eastern region. And that's where we see these people supporting Iran. So this war, if you actually see, it's not USA versus Iran, it's actually USA versus China. Because Russia is still, right now Russia is militarily strong, but economically not so strong. The real competitor for USA is going to be China. And these three are the great powers in the world right now. So this is one axis that you see on one side, and this another axis in which you have Israel on this side and other Gulf nations are on this side. Getting the point? Now, USA somehow wants that the influence of Russia and China should go away. They want USA's influence should go away. And the reality or the fact of the matter is, this area has become multipolar now. Multipolar means no one party has absolute control over here. USA is trying to build that control. So we have to see what happens. What will be the result of the war? We have to see where it actually leads to. And the results will show what will happen in the geopolitics of West Asia. Okay. Now, will this have impact on India? Yes, definitely. In short term, there will be a lot of impact. Let's say, because Iran can, that Strait of Hormuz, they can completely choke that area, because of which oil prices will suddenly increase in the entire world. That will lead to high inflation in India, security crisis, specifically this energy security crisis we might face. That's a problematic scenario. In long term, maybe this can be a good thing for us. How? Because in Iran, when we have this Islamic regime, there are some problems with respect to having good relations with Iran. It's not like we have bad relations. We have diplomatic relations, decent diplomatic relations. Historically, India and Iran have been sharing some good bonds. What happens is, if you have a secular regime and if you have Islamic regime, you will see the development in the form of diplomacy and the relation building can happen better if it is a secular regime rather than Islamic regime, if I look at things in a long-term basis. Okay, because Islamic regimes, they will have their own domestic politics, because of which they have to take stance with respect to the Muslim community. That's why we have seen somewhat when it comes to Kashmir issue, we might not like their stance as such. Also, India has been developing Chabahar project in Iran. That is one of the most important projects for India from its national security perspective. We want to develop that Chabahar project so that we can connect to Afghanistan, then to Central Asia and other part of the world. That we want to do. But developments are not going good, because India is very friendly with USA right now. Why? Because we are having strategic partnership. What is strategic partnership? We are saying now we are friends for long term. Why? Because who is USA's main competitor or enemy? China. Who is India's main competitor or enemy? China. So long-term interests say that India and US should stay together. Now, if both have to stay together, somewhere we have to listen to USA. That's very obvious. And that's where we see, even if we try to build good relations with Iran when this Islamic regime is there, and USA is having problem with Iran, then we can't have a good relationship. That's why for Chabahar project, many a times Indian government talk to US government to provide some waiver. We want to have build this Chabahar project, and they were trying to put sanctions. Now, maybe after the secular regime, if they come into picture, then things might change. This is an expectation, but we don't know where this is leading, because right now it doesn't seem the regime is changing as such, and it's not so easy to even control Iran. See, US invaded Iraq, US invaded Afghanistan or many other countries, but Iran is different. Iran, some people call Iran as natural fortress. Fortress means Iran's geography is of such a kind that no country can just invade it so easily. It's very tough. So we have to see where this war leads. Okay. So once we get new updates, we'll come up with those updates for you. Thank you.